The oldest pain you carry may not even be yours. Have you ever stopped to think how many of your pains, anguish, and emotional sabotage were born inside you, but were planted long before by the woman who gave you life? The relationship with our mother is the first we have, and also often the most complex, confusing, and full of hidden wounds. Carl Jung said, "Nothing has a stronger psychological influence on the environment, and especially on the children, than the unlived life of the parents." Today we are going to talk about maternal pain, not to blame but to heal. This video is an emotional and practical step-by-step guide to freeing yourself from maternal pain without rejecting it. If you feel like you're carrying a guilt that isn't yours, a responsibility that suffocates you, or a love that sometimes hurts, stay with me. And before we continue, check if you are already subscribed to the channel. Here we dive deep, without being afraid to look inside. This journey can be the beginning of your deepest emotional freedom. Shall we begin? Chapter 1. The Invisible Wound, How Maternal Pain Marks the Soul in Silence. From an early age, we learn to recognize physical pain, a cut, a blow, a fall. But there are pains that never bleed, never scream, and yet shape our entire lives. Maternal pain is like that. It hides in gestures, in phrases we hear over and over again, in silence filled with sadness, in the contained tears we have observed since childhood. You may not even remember, but you felt it. You felt it when your mother cried alone. You felt it when she was frustrated, exhausted, trapped in a life she perhaps did not completely choose. And little by little, without realizing it, you began to carry that pain as if it were your own. Many adults live with an emptiness they don't understand, with fear of disappointing, with the need to constantly sacrifice themselves, with difficulty setting limits. This is the invisible legacy of maternal pain. It not only hurts us, but teaches us to hurt ourselves too. According to Carl Jung, what is not brought to consciousness manifests itself as destiny. Therefore, acknowledging this wound is the first step, not to relive the pain, but to let it go, to finally be who you are, not who you learned to be to please or protect. Chapter 2. When Love Becomes a Prison, the Weight of Maternal Expectations. A mother's love is often romanticized as unconditional, sacred, and pure. But that's not always how it comes to us. Sometimes what we receive is not love, but a disguised demand, a camouflaged need, an overwhelming expectation. From a young age, many of us are taught that we need to be good children. But what is a good child? For some, it is someone who never contradicts others. For others, it is someone who cares, pleases, and silences their own desires so as not to hurt others. And so, love becomes a prison. How many times have you failed to say what you really thought so as not to hurt your mother? How many choices in your life were made not with freedom, but out of fear of disappointment? This is the trap of conditioned affection. You start to believe that you will only be loved if you live up to her expectations. Carl Jung warned us that the greatest tragedy of a child is that he cannot be himself, but rather what his parents need him to be. And this emotional tragedy does not end in childhood. It continues into adulthood, silently sabotaging us. The result? Exhausted adults who are constantly trying to prove their worth, who carry guilt they don't understand, who feel a constant obligation to take care of their mother emotionally, as if they were her parents. But here's a hard and liberating truth. You are not responsible for your mother's happiness. You were not made to fill the void she carries. This distorted love, based on duty and fear, needs to be acknowledged, not to be rejected, but to be healed. Because only when we see the weight we carry can we choose to put it down. Chapter 3. The Wounded Unconscious. How Carl Jung explains the inner mother. There is a mother who lives on inside you, even if she is gone. Even if you barely speak to each other. This inner mother is not a memory. She is an unconscious force that shapes your choices, your feelings, and your relationships. Carl Jung called this the maternal archetype, a deep, symbolic image of the mother that we all carry within us. But this image is not always sweet or protective. She can be controlling, demanding, critical, absent, just as we experienced in real life. This inner mother shows up when you blame yourself for resting, when you sabotage yourself from getting close to happiness, when you feel like you never do enough, no matter how hard you try. She is the one who whispers, "You need to take care of everyone. You are only worthy if you are perfect. You are selfish for thinking about yourself." Jung teaches us that what is in the unconscious governs our lives until the moment we become conscious of it. In other words, as long as this wounded inner mother is acting without you realizing it, you will continue to repeat patterns. You will seek partners who demand the same sacrifice. You will become the father or mother of your own parents. You will live to please, never to be. Healing begins by looking at this inner figure with compassion and courage. You don't have to fight it or obey everything it says. Just recognize, this voice is not yours. It was learned. And everything that is learned can be unlearned. What about you? Have you identified any of these voices within yourself? Share them with me in the comments. Your story may help other people to recognize themselves too. Chapter 4. Mirrors of Childhood. Recognizing repeated patterns in relationships. Have you ever noticed how certain situations repeat themselves in your life? Relationships that start with enchantment and end with exhaustion. Friendships in which you always give more than you receive. Jobs where you feel invisible, even when you try your best. These patterns are no coincidence. They are mirrors, reflections of the early relationships we had, especially with our mother. If she was emotionally absent, you may now be involved with people who are incapable of giving themselves. If she was controlling, you may now be in constant fear of displeasing her. If she was fragile and dependent, you may now be attracting people to save you. It's as if the unconscious is saying, if I relive this pain again, and maybe this time I can fix it. But we can't, because what hurt was not the present, it was the past. And the wounded child inside you doesn't want justice, it wants acceptance. Jung said that reconnecting with your shadow is essential for individuation, that is, for becoming who you really are. And these repetitive patterns are clues to your shadow. They point to what you have not yet healed. When you begin to observe, without judgment, these emotional cycles, something powerful happens. You stop blaming yourself, and you begin to understand. It's not weakness, it's repetition. It's not bad luck, it's emotional inheritance. Recognizing the mirrors of childhood is painful, yes, but it is also liberating, because only by seeing the reflection can you finally break the mirror. Chapter 5. The Awakening. The moment you realize you're living her pain, not yours. There's a moment in your life when something changes. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's subtle but devastating. You realize that you've spent years living someone else's pain, as if it were your own. Suddenly, you realize that that constant sadness didn't originate in you, but in your mother. That the fear of making mistakes, of disappointing, of not being enough, and that was something you inherited, not chose. That the sacrifices you make, the way you abandon yourself, the urge to take care of everyone, are unconscious repetitions of her pain. This is the moment of awakening. It's when the fog begins to lift, and what emerges is not only clarity but also deep compassion. You understand that your mother was hurt too, that she did what she could with the pain she carried, but that now that pain no longer needs to be your mission. This is where true healing begins, because you don't have to continue the cycle. You don't have to bleed from wounds you didn't cause. Jung said, to free oneself from the mother does not mean to despise her, but rather to cease, to be her psychological extension. This is not abandonment, it is differentiation. It is the beginning of a life in which you can finally feel what is yours, desire what is yours, live what is yours. If this chapter touched something inside you, leave a like. It's a small gesture, but it shows me that this message is getting where it needs to go. Chapter 6. The Ritual of Liberation. A step-by-step guide to healing maternal pain, without rejecting it. There comes a time when understanding is no longer enough. You feel that something needs to be done, but how do you heal this pain without blaming? How do you free yourself without rejecting? The answer lies in an emotional, almost ritualistic process, a conscious reunion with your inner mother. Here is a step-by-step guide that can begin this liberation. 1. Bring awareness to the original pain. Ask yourself, what was the most memorable moment I had with my mother? Where did I feel like I lost myself? You don't need to look for guilt. Just memories, write it down. Remember it. Feel it. 2. Distinguish her pain from yours. Close your eyes and say out loud, "This pain belongs to you, Mum. I return with love what is not mine." This may seem simple, but it is a symbolic gesture of emotional separation. 3. Embrace your inner child. Imagine yourself as a child. Imagine yourself as an adult, approaching your child and saying, "Now I take care of you. You no longer need to please or carry." This encounter changes everything. It is the replacement of demand with protection. 4. Write a release letter. It doesn't have to be mailed, just written. Tell about the pain. Tell about the love. Tell about the confusion. Tell about your decision to move on. Say, "I honor your story, but now I choose my own." 5. Create a new inner space. You can imagine a garden, a house, a symbolic altar inside yourself. Only what is yours can enter there. This space will be your new emotional home. This ritual doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes it takes weeks. Sometimes it takes years. But each time you choose your truth over repetition, you are healing. Freeing yourself from maternal pain is not about abandoning love. It is about purifying it. It is about giving back to your mother what is hers so that you can live what is yours. Chapter 7. Peace without guilt. How to live free from mother pain and honor your truth. After pain comes silence, and in that silence, peace is born. But it's a different kind of peace than you've perhaps been seeking all your life. It's not the peace of pleasing, of obeying, of conforming. It's the peace of being, of existing fully, without guilt, of living a life that is finally yours, not a continuation of your mother's emotional story. When you free yourself from maternal pain, something profound happens. You no longer have to prove yourself. You no longer have to repeat the same patterns. You no longer have to sacrifice yourself to feel love. You understand that you can honor your mother without imitating her, that you can be grateful for what you have received and still choose a new path, that loving someone does not mean living for them. Carl Jung said that true growth begins when we stop being emotional children and become parents to ourselves. This doesn't erase history, but it redirects destiny. And when you reach that point, you can look at your mother with love and say, "I honor you, and now I go lightly." If this journey touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel now. Here you don't walk alone. Every week, a new intimate and transformative conversation to help you live with more authenticity and inner peace. A new beginning for your soul. You've come this far, and that, in itself, is already an act of courage. Healing maternal grief is not about breaking with your mother. It's about breaking with the patterns that have kept you from yourself. It's about recognizing that you have long been the guardian of a pain that wasn't born in you, but that has shaped your entire history. Today you have in your hands something rare, consciousness. And consciousness is the first step to freedom. Now you know that you can love without carrying. You can care without canceling yourself. You can be whole without guilt. The wounded child within you no longer needs to scream because it has finally been heard, and the adult you are is ready to live with authenticity, peace, and self-respect. So, take a deep breath and let go. Let go of the weight, the fear, the obligation, and allow a new story to be born within you. Yours, true, light. If this message spoke to your heart, share this video with someone who also needs to hear it, and comment below. Which part touched you the most? Let's create a safe space for healing and acceptance together. Thank you for being here. Until the next video, and until the next step on your journey to liberation.